There are two kinds of babies in the world, live babies and inconveniences that are aborted. When my wife and I found out that we were first pregnant with our first child, we found abortion crossed our mind. Although we never acted on it, I understand where the idea of abortion comes from. First from emotions, and second from inconveniences. It's through inconveniences that we are sowing moral destruction, murder, and the downfall of our society. By being silent and allowing inconveniences to dictate life, we're destroying ourselves. We need to use the necessary means that God has given us, and let the love of Christ be a light shining into this world, so that the unborn might have life. We'll see that euthanasia led to afterbirth abortions, which in turn led to preterm abortions, and which has in turn led to the acceptance and the devaluation of life. This started in the 1920s in great demand when two distinguished German professors started popularizing the idea of euthanasia. It was 19 years before this actually started taking place in Nazi gas chambers, but is where the idea expanded the German imagination. This is according to Life Too Inconvenient for Life, which was published in a monthly journal of religion and public life. In 1939, this expanded German imagination gassed 75,000 mentally ill and handicapped Germans, their own people. This in turn led to after-birth abortions, which gives us permission to destroy newborns who aren't unworthy but are inconvenient. It slowly found its way into society in a more subtle way by the name of preterm abortions. It came to be that since I can't see it, somehow it must not matter. After all, it's just an embryo or a blob of tissue, right? The idea of euthanasia and abortion has slowly been popularized over the last century, making society less shocked at the idea of taking a life that is somehow not benefiting the whole. Abortion is now evolving further into a matter of convenience of the parents. People say, well, not so fast. That's not really true. People get abortions for other reasons, such as rape, incest, or deformalities of a baby, or even for the health of a mother. But according to the Family Research Council, which reported a survey by the Alan Gottmacher Institute, 25% of those seeking abortion are simply not ready for a child or another child, or the timing for this child is not right. This is all according to the people who are having it. Another 23% report that they can't afford the baby which they're about to have. Finances dictate this life. Interesting enough, only 0.5% of babies that were aborted were because of incest or rape or the health of a mother. The usual reasons you might hear for abortions. As Christians, as men, as the body of Christ, we must remember the value of life comes from the fact that God has chosen to give it, to create it, not whether or not a society, a person, a couple, or an individual perceives that life is useful nor convenient. We must remember that God knits together each person's life, according to Psalm 139:13. It says, "For you formed my inward parts, and you knitted me together in my mother's womb." Genesis 1:27 describes how man is made in the image of God. It is God that gives us life. But let's consider the unborn life in Exodus 21, 22, and 23. It says, "Where men strive together and hit a pregnant woman so that her children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as a woman's husband shall impose on him. And he shall pay as the judge determines. But if there is no harm, then you shall, but if there is harm, you shall pay life for life. If there is harm, your life shall pay for that life." God considers the unborn to be alive. To remain silent is sin, and it allows the murder of the innocent life to be murdered. God calls us to do good, and in Luke 6:35a, it says, "But love your enemies and do good." God does not want us to be silent, nor does he want us to devalue life, because silence in itself is doing nothing and becomes evil. Edmund Burke said, "All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." It is because of Christ that we can even be considered good. Because of his saving atonement, he can look upon us. And if we do nothing, then we are allowing evil to triumph. We must ask ourselves, what are we going to sow? Are we going to sow destruction, murder? Are we going to allow our society to fall? Are we going to use the means necessary that God has given us to vote, to elect men and women in political avenues, to legislate laws, but most of all, to stand on God's light, to stand on God, reflect his Son, and be a light to this world, so that the unborn might have life. Thank you.